Hey, crew, welcome back to the Happily Living podcast. If you're new here, this space is all about living intentionally, joyfully, and sustainably, not perfectly. And if you've been here for a while, welcome back. Today, we have a guest whose work aligns so beautifully with everything we talk about here on the Happily Living podcast: grace, balance, intuition, and choosing a life that supports your energy instead of draining it. I'm joined by Kristina, the founder of Limitless Integrative Wellness, a space dedicated to helping women reconnect with their bodies, regulate their nervous systems, and remove the overwhelm that is so often surrounding the idea of getting healthy, right? Her approach is grounded, holistic, and incredibly human. She blends mind body practices, emotional awareness, and everyday lifestyle shifts to help people feel supported, not pressured on their wellness journey. What I love most about Christina's work is that she doesn't teach people to chase perfection. She teaches them to listen to their bodies, their patterns, and their inner knowing. She helps women build realistic habits that fit into real life, not an idealized version of it. And whether you're navigating stress, burnout, seasonal shifts, or you're simply ready to just understand what your body has been trying to tell you, Christina brings the kind of wisdom that feels like a deep exhale, like a great sigh of relief. So grab a cup of something warm if you're in the northern area like I am, get comfortable, and let's dive into a conversation about integrative healing, sustainable wellness, and what it really means to live in alignment. Hi, Christina. Thank
Hi,
you for
Gabrielle.
tagging along today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, for listeners who may be new to you, what led you into integrative wellness? Was there a moment where everything clicked or shifted for you?
Well, I would say as a clinician, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I have a private practice and I provide psychotherapy and mental health counseling to people. And it's something that I've always incorporated in my work with my clients where I've looked at the entire person instead of just the presenting issue. So, even if someone's coming in for depression, I might discuss nutrition with them and I might refer them to somebody who can help them, better that particular practice in their life, or maybe even physical fitness, or an energy healer. So there's different things that I've incorporated in the way that I've approached therapy with clients for over a
Mm-hmm.
decade. I would say what amplified it was during COVID, when we stopped having easy access to everybody that provided services like this, and we had to modify the way that we were providing services to be hybrid. And so it changed a lot of people's business models, the shutdown. So when it came to revamping how we provided therapy as well, I thought it would be really cool if everybody could kind of be in one place, or at least be connected in a way, even if it was hybrid, so that it was an easier referral system. So fast forward a few years after 2020, I started to ask everybody how they would feel about being part of a collective, collaborative environment, even if it meant it was on their terms. So you could maintain your business the way you wanted to. You could make it whatever practice you normally have, but you would join a community and you would support each other in that growth. And surprisingly, everybody kind of couldn't wait for that to happen and said yes. And fast forward, I have a building now where a lot of individuals can come down and operate out of here if they choose, or they can hybrid, provide services that way. But now we've grown from just myself and a handful of others to about 19 different types of providers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's kind of always been a standard practice for me. I think the difference now is that, let's say you come in to see me for therapy, or you've zoomed in to see me for therapy, you can also walk out of this office and participate in other services that we have here with different providers, or you can sign up for different hybrid services that they have. So
Yeah.
it's just a little bit easier.
Yeah. And that's what everyone wants, right? You want convenience, but
Kind of, yeah.
in a way, right, that provides us what we need and not something that takes away what
Right.
we
It's
need.
just going to enhance whatever your results are, right? So whatever
Yeah.
you're coming to therapy for, all of these other things that you may or may not choose to partake in will enhance your results. The idea is that you become, you're able to reach your goals, become empowered and feel healthier and live life on your terms. So what better way to do that than to do it collaboratively?
Yeah. And especially, working with that, you feel listened to, right? You're not just walking away and going to a store to get a script. Not saying anything's wrong with medication, but I do come from the same place of trying to root for holistic up until the point where it is necessary for medication, you know?
Yeah, of course. We do have a Eastern and Western blend here. So for that exact reason, so I do have, I'll have a nutritionist or a personal trainer or someone who specializes in massage therapy or lymphatic drainage or Reiki or acupuncture.
Speaking my language.
We have that, right? And then we also have IV vitamin infusions, and that provider is also a psychiatrist.
Wow.
So she does an Eastern Western model on her own in her own practice. She's a psych NP, so she has that practice, and it's also married with the vitamin aspect of it, the infusions. And then I have a concierge MD who loves to participate in all of everybody else's modalities. So even though she's not technically a functional MD, she's somebody who likes to incorporate Eastern and Western into her own practice. So it's, there isn't a stone left unturned for most people that come in and work with us.
Wow. That's really cool. Before I get to, dived into it, let's start with the title, right? Limitless Integrative Wellness. So, what does limitless mean to you on a personal level?
I mean, why have a limit is, I guess, the better question, right?
Right.
Why limit yourself? So limitless is meant to incorporate or encompass all the things that we could have here, right? So right now I might only have a space that can fit as many people as I have, but it could grow to more. It could grow to have, a spa type of feel to it, in the sense of you want to have a cold plunge, you want to have infrared sauna, that kind of thing. Right now I currently only have, because we're still only under a year old, we have red light therapy, we have a salt wall, we have the vitamin infusions, and we have the massage therapy, and we have a lot of different aspects that are here. But I'm a 2,500 square foot place. If I could advance and be larger, I'd like to incorporate more services. So limitless is meant to show that we can incorporate a lot, and we intend to incorporate more.
Wow. So, many people want to feel better, right? But they don't know where to start. What's one small manageable shift you could encourage people to try first?
Therapy. You could try therapy first,
Yeah.
like it sometimes having a dedicated 50 or more minutes to yourself every day where somebody is undivided attention to you can help you really sort through some of the thoughts and some of the challenges that you've been facing. I do work with a lot of individuals that have suffered with chronic autoimmune or pain. So when they come in, some of their symptoms are comorbid with physical ailments. So when they come in and they're like, I have X, Y, and Z happening, and that might be why the depression is there, we're able to unpack it in a way that feels organized and intentional. And so I would say start with therapy.
Yeah. So, how do you feel, or how do you help someone who feels overwhelmed by all the wellness advice out there?
I would say if I'm working with an individual that feels overwhelmed, we would have to, help them ground their nervous system first, quiet down the noise, and let's stick to what I like to start with is, let's stick to the facts. Like, what do we know to be true for you? And what does that mean? And, what have you already tried? And then we kind of examine those experiences from there. We don't
Yeah.
have to take every single thing, right? Because it can be very overwhelming and overstimulating. So let's just start with what do you know to be true? Which is, I think, a tough question for people, because sometimes they don't know it to be true. It's just stuff they've heard. So like,
Right.
what have you personally tried, and either what did it resonate with you or did it not, and where did it go from there? So I think sometimes we just need help organizing what it is that we've been told versus what we've experienced, and what we're curious about.
Yeah. And I think with this day and age, you get so much advancement in the ability to constantly have access to information, which is great. But at the same time, it's like that overloading
Can be harmful
yeah,
because
and
there's
not knowing.
misinformation, right? There's
Exactly.
misinformation out there. So, you know, that's it's something I think you have to take your time with, because research is good, but it's also really good if you can make the connection with the individual. And I think vibes sometimes speak louder than somebody's pamphlet or brochure. So,
Yeah.
if you can't relate to the provider, then maybe we should still shop around.
Right. Yeah. One of the things we talk about on this show is reconnecting to your energetic and emotional roots. How do you approach healing the internal environment as much as the physical one?
Oh, in my therapy, I practice EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which is nickname is also tapping. We do a lot of tapping here. A lot of work on the law of attraction. So I do a lot of education on that and help people understand that you experience more of what you feel, and what you feel is, essentially there's no reality other than the one you make up. So what are you going to be focusing on so that we can try to help you feel more regulated? And so I sometimes have to unpack what people think therapy is, and also help re-educate what that could look like for them. But I think it's really important to help people understand that a belief is a thought you keep thinking. So I need to know what those are, and I need to help you reorganize them and maybe even revamp them so that you can start inviting wellness into your life. So there's a lot of things that go into foundational skills and education in the beginning of our therapy, and emotionally regulating yourself could look like a number of things. It's not just a one size fits all, so every single session is different.
And I think with, especially like a generational thing, therapy used to be with the connotation of like, you're unwell, right? And I think that hopefully majority of my generation has come to realize that therapy is a form of self-care. Like you need an
100%.
outside source to help you ground yourself in a way that isn't biased, that
Yeah.
isn't related. And finding my therapist was like when I get asked, like, how did you go about it? How did you find this person? I honestly, what I can recall is Googling, right? But also making sure that they take my insurance. And then it took years to find someone that actually connected with me in a way that wasn't just, okay, if you're stressed, like, do you take deep breaths? Do you look at a corner? Like things like that, right? And so for individuals trying to find a therapist or trying to find balance, what does that look to you in a constant world of like push culture? So we have that, okay, you're going to be there for yourself and you're going to connect with yourself and intuitive, you know, time related to seasons. I might be overwording this, but then you also have like the constant grind momentum. So how do you know which one to follow? And how do you find yourself finding a therapist that works well for you?
Okay, so there's a couple parts to the question. I would
Yeah,
say
sorry about
it's
that.
okay. It's all right. I just don't want to miss anything. So, what I would say as far as therapy, I think we need to shift the way we look at therapy in general. It's an investment in yourself, just like you would invest in a bank account that had a high yield return, right? So, you want to put your savings in a certain thing that's going to pay you more money while it sits there. Same thing when it comes to therapy. Just like when you break your arm, you go to the ER or you go to a doctor to help fix set it and or put a cast on it. Like that's when there's an actual presenting problem, but you don't always need therapy when there's a crisis, right? There's also people that will maintain their health by having an exercise routine or a good nutrition. I think therapy should be part of that too. Like your mind influences your body, and your body will reinforce what it is that you feel in your mind. So I don't see why it should be ignored on the list of things that we are, let's say in the push culture, we're checking off the list of things that we want to do for ourselves. Our mind should always be included. So part of it is we need to look at it more as an investment rather than something that we only do in crisis. The other side of it is, I've never accepted insurance as far as I've been in practice for 12 years, and I've never worked with insurance companies intentionally because they dictate too much of what we can provide.
Yeah.
Although of course I pay for insurance for myself every month, and it's very expensive, but ironically most of the things that I want to do for myself are not covered under insurance anyway. So I look insurance is mostly there for like prescriptions if needed and emergency scenarios, because my everyday wellness doesn't go through my insurance, which
Yeah.
is, it's just an unfortunate reality in this country. So when it comes to looking at, if we were to shift all of this to look at this, our wellness is an investment in ourselves, including our mental health and physical health, then I would recommend people, if you do pay for insurance and you do invest in that business as it is in this country, I would make sure you have out of network benefits so that you can at least apply some of the things that you're investing in for yourself, whether it's mental health or physical wellness, nutrition, maybe even HRT for people that are going through menopause. Like, make sure you have out of network benefits so that some of that cost can be covered under the insurance pyramid that we have. Otherwise, consider it an additional investment in your wellness, because insurance, unfortunately, especially with the way things have shifted in COVID, we're seeing more and more online therapy mills pop up that are offering really cheap therapy. And unfortunately, really cheap also means low quality. And it doesn't necessarily mean there aren't gifted therapists out there in these platforms, but it's just not as often or as common as it would be if you were going to be intentionally seeking a therapist. So
Yeah.
I would say, not only does insurance dictate what I can provide you, it dictates how long I can see you, it dictates what I can diagnose you with, it dictates how and the length of treatment, the type of treatment, and how many times I'm allowed to see you. So because it marginalizes our ability to give you the proper care, it's never been a system I've wanted to enter. So most of the clinicians that I work with and the ones that I feel are the most gifted are not on panels. So there may be other arrangements that therapists are able to find loopholes in there, like only on some panels, but mostly not. It's because insurances are kind of, I don't really know a better way to say it, but are greedy. So we try to make our particular practice enhanced so that you're not just getting what you're told therapy is, you're getting more than what you are expecting, which is what we have the freedom of doing by not accepting insurance. So I would say that if you are stuck with going through insurance because of a financial situation in your life and you don't have out of network benefits, then I would do a lot of research on the person's scope of practice. Because the other thing that I see online a lot is individuals will, in order to have clients find them, they will check off a lot of things that they have done in their career, but that's not necessarily their niche or their scope of practice, meaning it's not their specialty.
Right.
So if you have two camps, you can either have the freedom of going out of network and you can do your research on the type of therapy that you really want, and do your research on that person, see if they have reviews, see what their online presence is like. And then if you are, I'll say, pigeonholed, you have to go through insurance, then you have to do a little bit more research to make sure that that individual really is practicing in the scope of their specialty, or are they saturated because of the type of platform they're on. You have to do a little bit more work nowadays because of how therapy has changed as far as the accessibility of it. And cheaper doesn't always mean better.
Right. Yeah.
I
I've
think
I've
I
come to
hope I
find that
hit
out.
all the things that you asked. I'm not really
No,
sure.
100%. And I try to do better with questions. I just definitely get ahead of myself. So I do
It's okay.
apologize with
It's
that
okay.
one.
I happen to be in the business of listening, so I was able to hear it all. But I
And
I wanted to try to hit all the things because it's complicated. I
yeah.
understand that people aren't necessarily all in the financial they're not all in the same bracket. So I understand needing to make it affordable, but I also want to shift the perspective of what we're investing in, because I can guarantee
Yeah.
you, I have a lot of clients that'll say like, "Oh, it's a little too expensive." Over the years of my time in practice, they would say like it's too expensive, and then I'm like, "Well, how much money do you waste on DoorDash?" Or like, "How much money do you waste on cigarettes or
Yeah.
alcohol?"
It's like the
Or, yeah,
priorities.
like how about we shift a couple of things in your life to make your investment in yourself worth it? Because when you invest in yourself, it always pays you back. How could it not?
And you are located in New York, right? But
Yep.
you said that you do hybrid. So for any of the listeners that want to
Yep.
come to your practice, they can
So
go through your
I have two physical locations. I have one in Long Island, New York, and one in Florida, Boca. And then I'm licensed in Connecticut and Massachusetts in addition to Florida and New York. So we have 4 states that we can treat. And we can
Oh,
do
wow.
hybrid in all 4, but the physical, if you wanted to come in person, you can come in two different states.
Yeah. And when I travel for work, I'm definitely gonna have to come out there and visit you
Well, you
because
said you're in the north,
obviously
so where are you?
I'm in Michigan.
Oh, what part?
I am in the Detroit area.
Okay.
Yeah, so, like,
I was
more
gonna
on
say, like, where are
the
you?
south side of the glove. I
Okay.
guess is it this way for I never know the way that people can see me, so
Yeah,
but
I
people
got
know
it.
what a glove look like, yeah.
Yep, yeah, perfect. All right, great.
So, right now, people are navigating seasonal changes, stress, overstimulation
Mhm.
with the day to day, but also with holidays,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
What are your go to practices for regulating the nervous system naturally?
Okay. So, getting into a routine of grounding, several times a day is very helpful. Also, understanding that no is an important word to have during the holidays. Holidays is not carte blanche to self sacrifice because of family and other commitments. Like, if you feel tapped out, allow yourself to go and take that break. But in general, I would say having a grounding ritual, so activating your senses in the morning and activating your senses at night, and that could look like a number of different things. It could look like, sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch, sight and hearing. And so you can incorporate different models of that, depending on what you have available, and it's meant to pull you out of your mind. So I often tell people, don't pick like a really delicious piece of chocolate to activate your mouth sense. Like, bite a lemon or find a sour candy that you can put in your mouth that's going to activate your mouth sense, because you want to bring the attention to the senses. You don't want to bring the attention to how you enjoy it. You want to bring the attention to, I wanna make sure I can't ignore it. So the biting of the lemon or a chili pepper or something like that might make your eyes or nose run, and that's on purpose because we wanna make sure that you're not up here and that you're actually focusing on the exercise. So that's important to clarify. Um, 10 7 to 10 seconds of really cold water can be very helpful in the shower if you don't have access to different things to activate your senses, and let's say you only have access to your morning routine or it's too early in the morning for you to do that. I ask people to pair it up with something you're already going to do. So let's say that you're getting ready for work and you happen to do your morning or night shower. Either one is fine. But at the end of your, hygiene ritual, kick that faucet over to something really cold and stay in that water for as long as you can tolerate it. If it's 0 to 3 seconds, that's fine. If it's longer, that's even better. But your nervous system will really, your cortisol hormone will reduce the second that it's activated with the cold water. If you don't have access to, let's say, daily showers, then try to find something that's cold that you can put on your frontal cortex or the back of your neck. So certain things like that can really help your nervous system. Those are all natural remedies. Also, something as simple as laying on the ground. You can lay on the ground and you can grab like a heavy, I tell people, if you have a weighted blanket, use that. But if you don't, grab a stack of books or grab a dog or a cat or a kid and have them sit on your chest for a few seconds, because that can be very helpful in grounding to help your nervous system feel safe. So those are some things that I like when people improvise, because I don't know what anybody's house situation is like, a living situation is like. So you have to get creative sometimes.
Interesting. I've seen this a lot recently on Pinterest, is like putting your legs up for 5 minutes before you go to bed with lowering cortisol.
Up against the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, it slows your heart rate, so that would be
Okay.
helpful. It's not something that I've recommended a client to do yet,
Yeah.
but I have seen the same videos. I mean, there's lots of different ways that you can change the way your body is responding to your environment. But I think what's important, especially during the holidays, is you are in control of the saturation level that you have in your environment. And I think it's important for people to understand that, the little time that you're going to be spending with your family should not be undoing all of the work you've done in therapy for that year. So you should
Yeah.
definitely be practicing those boundaries, and you should be practicing saying no and practice practice, something as simple as driving yourself to the event or to the place instead of carpooling, just so that you have the ability to leave if you need to, if you feel overwhelmed, having the ability to leave early or come late, or, take a minute or a breather in your car. It's very helpful to have your own exit strategy sometimes for certain family functions. And also just realize that you don't have to attend everything just because everybody's in town. You can pick and choose what you want to go to. And I think we get into this habit of the second that Thanksgiving arrives until New Year's, people are go, 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 and they can't say no to anything because it's a once a year type of thing. What's the problem or the cost of that is it could set you back in a lot of ways, physically and mentally, and it's not worth it. So pick and choose, make your time intentional, pick and choose your resting time too, because that's just as important as your social time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, we forget that we have control. We forget the word no, and the opportunity to have boundaries over our own self because
100%.
of that small time period that you don't really get with them before. So it's like you want to spend time enjoying it, so you need to take a little breather. You need to take a step back so you can do that.
Yeah, because you're also going to be navigating. There's so many things that come up for people during the holidays, especially those who struggle with any sort of body dysmorphia or eating disorders. I mean, holidays are super tough. So you're going to be saturated again in different ways with sugar and food temptations and things that might be triggering for you. So it's really important that you go into these things with a plan. And sometimes those plans are most times I'm working on plans from October until January with my clients.
Yeah.
We're planning and preparing for this. We're planning on the in the moment stuff too, and we're planning on how to recover. So that's another good. It's kind of cool to have somebody who's dedicated to you, like I said, every week, and they're your cheerleader and your coach and your therapist all in one. So you get to do all these things and like, okay, I have this in mind. I can go in feeling prepared for these things because you know, the point is to enjoy your time and have intention, but also to take care of yourself. It doesn't
Yeah.
just get, you know, shots.
Thrown out.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna yeah, I was gonna say something else, but yes. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't get thrown out just because it's Christmas or it's whatever you practice is upon us now.
Right. So, with that being said, how does nature specifically play a role in the way you help clients heal or reset?
Oh, I think nature is extremely vibrationally healing. So if we were to do a quick crash course on frequencies, everything has a frequency because our modern day life has brought us to you know, the saturation that we are in now because of technology and modernization of civilization. We are antennas that are walking around being saturated by other frequencies, whether we're interacting with it or not. We're just absorbing from being around it. So getting into nature is extremely important to cleanse all of that saturation and to ground yourself, because nature itself has such a great frequency harmony that we can't, I mean, we only benefit from it. So
Right.
to bring yourself back, even in the dead of winter, there's still a low hum that's still going on with all the plants that are in dormancy. So being out there, being grounded, being able to incorporate walks or um, hiking, or just being able to stand next to your backyard tree and taking a breather is extremely important. So nature plays a huge role in resetting our nervous systems. If you can incorporate it, please do. Even if you're in the city, I'm sure you can find a tree.
Yeah, when I visit, family, they definitely have a different environment than I do,
Mhm.
and so with one of my sisters who lives in Arizona, she has a turf backyard, and she had to take down her orange tree because it died and there were rats coming in. Like, there's various things that kind of like enabled the development of her house to basically be kind of like New York City, just, cement
Right.
walls.
Yep.
And for those who are either on a day to day basis that don't really have that awareness or engagement with nature, or even remotely go out.
Well, does she have a sun and moon?
Yeah.
So then I would go outside and look at the sky. If you
Yeah.
have nothing that you can touch, then lay down and look up. Don't lay down for too long though in Arizona.
Right.
But, you know, cactus is fine too. I'm sure if you left her house, you could find some cacti somewhere. Because I know out there there's more rock gardens than there are green gardens, especially for water conservation and just what's the point of watering a desert. So like I get that you'd have to be more creative, but there's also beautiful mountains in different parts of Arizona. I don't know where she is, but you know, there's different thick canyons and things that you could experience. So if you can't do that, if you can't leave, then when the sun is setting and the moon is coming out, find a place to hang out on a towel or on something soft and look up.
So it can be just as simple as just that's
It could be as
awesome.
simple as walking outside at the height of the, especially in the winter. I tell this to my clients. They think I'm crazy, but do it anyway. At 12 o'clock for where we are in New York, that's the height of the sun, right? The most exposure in the winter is 12 p.m. So go outside at 12 p.m. for 10 minutes and look at the sun and try to get as much of your skin exposed as you can so that you're absorbing that vitamin D.
Okay.
So
And when you say
15
look at the
minutes.
sun, you're not necessarily like wide eye, like looking at the sun, but more so just like taking it
Bask in it.
in. Yeah,
Bask in
basking.
it. Yeah, close your eyes.
Yeah.
Bask in it. Close your eyes. Face the sun. I'll say that. Face the sun. Find it if you can. And even if it's a cloudy day, the sun is still out. So go out at 12 o'clock and try to find what you can see as the brightest area, as long as it's not raining, and stand outside so that you can get as much of daylight as possible. Daylight is extremely important for our bodies to regulate, and having a rhythm through our day is extremely important. Routine, people sometimes flinch at the word because they associate routine with rigidity, and that's not what it means at all.
Mhm.
Routine means consistency. It doesn't mean rigidity. So you can develop a routine that flows for you, whether you're traveling or whether you're home, but you have to be intentional with it. So your routine, if it's let's say you want to incorporate every aspect, you could say your mental health, your physical health, your hygiene, your nutrition, that can be routinized. You know, you have to make sure you maybe you're eating something the same time every day or around the same window every day, and your meals can change. You can change how you exercise, you can modify all these things, but if you try to hit these boxes every day, that can be your routine, whether or not you're in your home or you're in the hotel. So I think what's important is people need to understand that routine helps you have better sleep hygiene, it helps you have better day-to-day hygiene, mental and otherwise. So
So, speaking on that topic, on the show, we're very anti perfection, anti restriction. So,
right.
how do you encourage people to build a wellness routine without making it feel like another thing to get right?
Well, you're already doing certain things, right? Gabrielle, do you get dressed before you leave your house?
Hmm.
Well, what happens if you don't?
I would be a part of a nudist colony.
Right. Yeah. Or you could get arrested, right?
Get arrested. Yeah.
So so if you're not lucky enough to be part of that nudist colony that we just referenced, you definitely get dressed, right? So it's super easy to build into things that you already do unconsciously. You just have to habit stack. So let's say you're getting up every day, and I'm just going to make up the routine. Let's say the first thing you do when you wake up is you go to the bathroom. You know, you could have certain things in the bathroom that start your routine. It could mean that you're doing your grounding exercises when you brush your teeth or when you use your mouthwash or when you wash your face. You're just bringing your awareness to the act that you're doing. So let's say maybe the only time that you're able to read the affirmations is when you're about to go to the bathroom. So you hang them up in front of the toilet, and that's
Mm,
when you read them. And
yeah.
let's say that your mindfulness exercise can only be done in the shower because you have really amazing soaps that you like to smell and things that you like to do. So you do it in that shower. And you know, let's say that there's another sort of affirmation or gratitude practice that you want to have, then you go and you put that particular practice by your K-cup machine or by your coffee machine or by your tea station. And when you're drinking your tea or having your breakfast, if you choose to have them, then you do it in that moment. If you're more of an on the go person like me, then you do it. I have my affirmations in the car. They're sitting right on my dashboard. So I'm saying them as I'm driving. You know, like
That's
I
cool.
have to build in things that flow with my day. I also have kids that I had to drive around for a while up until recently. So because they're old enough to drive,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Congratulations. Yeah.
So, you know, I have to make it so that it flows with my day because of the same reasons that maybe some of your listeners have concerns about. So Make it make sense. Put it in your briefcase, put it in your purse. You can bring your oils with you. If you want to do your grounding exercise on the train, you can. No one's going to, especially in New York, no one's going to ask you what you're doing. So, you pull out some oils, they're going to be like, whatever. They're just going to mind their own business. New Yorkers don't ask questions. So,
Yeah.
no one's going to ask you if you're suddenly doing a breathing exercise on the train or otherwise. You just make it make sense. Pair it with something that already exists. You get dressed, hang up your affirmations in the closet. I have some affirmations in my closet, and my closet door is open, and I do my ritual there. I have some in the car. I have some in the bathroom. I also have them in the bathroom to bother my kids. So, it's unconscious. Sometimes it's unconscious that we can actually fit it in more so than you realize. If you
Yeah.
don't like to have breakfast in the morning and you're more of an on-the-go person, like I said before, then try to make healthy choices. That doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
I've told people, I have a client who, the way that his schedule is, he really doesn't have a lot of options for food because of how long he has to be in school and work. There's nowhere to refrigerate anything, and his cooler doesn't stay cold enough. He's in a hot state, right? So for at least 12 hours in the day, he's either in the car, in a classroom, and doesn't have access to healthy options for food. So I said, fine, then wherever you normally go to buy food, get something that you think could be the potentially healthiest on the menu and pair it with some water and instead of soda. I said, at the very least, just shift it a smidge. Within a week of him doing that, he felt 80% better and lost a ton of inflammation in his face and in his body from not having that
Wow.
type of food. So it was the tiniest shift that he had to do. The
Yeah.
tiniest thing. He just said, I chose this meal instead of that meal. I chose water instead of soda. And within 7 days, he noticed a difference.
Well, that kind of answers my next question. So there's that.
So
So how do you then, I guess we'll shift from there. How do you help clients reconnect with their intuitive self?
we have to detox first.
Okay.
So my biggest detox lesson with clients, and this is unpopular, I'm going to say it anyway, but it's, reducing this. It's reducing the screen time, because some of us are forced to be on the screen for work or have to be tethered to our phones for family commitments, children, work, or otherwise. In addition to that, we're so, I guess, prone to just scrolling mindlessly on the phone that people aren't even
Yeah.
aware of how many hours they spend on the phone. So one of the first things that I ask my clients to do, if they don't already have it, is add your screen time tracker, turn it on. I want to know how many hours that you do on the phone. I'm curious, because usually what they tell me they think they do is not even close to the hours that they do. So every week this will track a total of what you've spent on the phone, but it'll also tell you your day-to-day use. So most times my clients will come in, they'll tell me I do about 6 to 7 hours on the phone. What it ends up being is 13 to 12 hours, like 12, 13, 14 in that range of on the phone screen time. So the way that it breaks it down, at least for the iPhone, is it'll tell you what you're doing on your phone. It'll tell you if you're on socials, if you're on email, if you're on a call, and it'll break down your average for that. Most times it's a social media addiction that I see.
Mhm.
So in order for people to come back to themselves, we have to detox how much we're on the screen so that you can actually trust your intuition, because there's no discernment available to you when you're saturated with technology. I'm guilty of it too. So like
Yeah.
different times of the
I have
year,
my days. Yeah.
I totally have my days too. So it's really easy to just be gentle with yourself on this and try to pivot little by little. But one of the things that I recommend is putting a screen time limit on, so at least it prompts you to turn it off. And you can ignore it, of course, and keep going. But the more you have to hit that button to ignore, the more you're aware that you're choosing to not do what you need to do for yourself, right? So you can choose the
Mhm.
limit. And let's say you want to only do 30 minutes to, an hour or more. Whatever it is, you want to reduce whatever it is that you currently have. So let's say you come into me with 13 hours of saturation. I would say, let's try to get it down to 10. And what can we do to get it down to 10? And then let's try to get it down to 6, and let's try to get it down to 4. And I would say a healthy average is between 4 and 5 a day in comparison to what people are used to. So if we can get to that number, then I can start to teach you how to tap into your intuition, because you're not filling all of your quiet time with this. And you need to have some quiet time to be able to hear your intuition. Your intuition is a lot quieter than your ego. So you have to learn how to quiet down your environment to be able to hear it and then trust it. It's a whole nother lesson.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times, when we're either you press the ignore, right, on the thing, or um you come to the awareness of like filling up all of your time, like every weekend or always doing something, and you kind of get
Go,
into
go,
that
go.
habit of not doing something. I think the more we, hopefully, most of the time you don't, but the more we realize that we don't want to spend time alone. And a lot of people don't like spending time alone. And like you just brought up, it's identifying whether it's ego or your intuition, because like you said, intuition is a lot quieter. So I
Quiet
think,
time isn't alone, though. Quiet
yeah,
time doesn't mean alone.
yeah, exactly.
You can be quiet in the other room and have your family right outside the door. You can be quiet in a space where everybody else is loud. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're alone, but it does help to practice it when you're alone so that when you are with others, you can hear it.
Hmm. Okay. So when you say alone, it's more so like doing.
Well, I said quiet, right? So you want to quiet
Mhm.
your mind. You said alone, Gabrielle.
I said alone. Yeah.
So, let's say you feel alone because you're doing your commute every day, and that's maybe an additional 4 hours to your workday that you're not being paid. That's the average of commute time here in New York, right? So you're not necessarily alone. You're on a crowded train or you're in a car with a ton of traffic around you, right? So it only takes 15 minutes a day to practice some sort of quiet time. And then you can go back to whatever it was that you were doing. The chances are the more you practice that quiet time, the more you're going to crave that, and you're going to choose less and less of that noise that you've become accustomed to. It's just that sometimes you forget what it is that you didn't realize you enjoyed, right? So you have to
Mhm.
relearn that you enjoyed that, because to think about it, even sometimes as little kids, you can see them playing by themselves and being super happy, and then you can see them playing with another kid and being super happy. But the ability to be alone in that space for 15 minutes strengthens your ability to connect with others. You have to have the yin and yang.
Yeah. So let's say alone with your thoughts. What does that, I guess,
Alone
mean
with
to
your
you?
thoughts. Okay, so I would say a mindfulness exercise isn't necessarily alone with your thoughts. However, if you wanted to, if perhaps part of why you saturate your life is because you tend to gravitate towards your thoughts, what if you just allowed them to be there and you just observe them instead of judge them?
Yeah, because I think that's where a lot of people attach themselves, right? Instead of like
So you
just
have a
letting
thought.
them be there. Yeah.
Just like a cloud is passing through the sky, it's passing through the sky. So the thought can become the cloud. You can have a ton of clouds passing you through the sky. Who cares? Have
Right.
have a ton of thoughts. Why do we have to make meaning about them?
We don't.
Right? Right. I mean, we can have the thoughts, just observe them. If you feel like it's too overwhelming, I would start to assess some other things that might be going on.
Right. Okay. So be an observer of your thoughts and not attach yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to have thoughts. We didn't say you couldn't have thoughts, but
Yeah.
the sometimes the mindfulness an exercise could be bringing your awareness to something else other than your thoughts. You could be bringing your awareness, if let's say you're driving, you can bring your awareness to how it feels to sit in your car. It could see how, if you feel like the seat is comfortable or not. What are some things that you can tell me that you observed, whether it's a sense of smell, what do you see, what do you hear, how many things can you hear? If you turn the radio off, how many things can you hear? So it's like, trying to bring awareness to different sensations, that could take you less than 3 minutes.
Yeah. And I've noticed it always comes back to that presence, the sensations, just kind of de-stimulating your body.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So turn the music down and tell me, what can you hear? Sometimes you can hear your neighbor's music in the next lane. Sometimes you can hear honking, you can hear a train, or a few minutes ago, the boat behind me, there's a shipyard here, that the boat horn was going off, and I could hear that while I was hearing you too. So like, our minds are, and our ears and our brains are capable of really taking in a lot of information. sometimes you just have to turn the volume down.
Yeah. So you often talk about the body giving clues. What are some early signals that people tend to ignore?
Fatigue. Fatigue isn't always what you think it's from. So I would say fatigue is a clue. Headaches, um, neck pain, jaw pain, appetite changes, whether it's a suppression of appetite or an increase, depending on how you respond to stress. Sometimes you will crave certain things that you don't normally crave. That's a sign. Other things
Interesting.
you're missing your meals and you're not hungry. That's another sign. So like, I can gauge what kind of stress and how you're managing it based on how you live your life every day. And that's why I take such an inventory with people of like, take me through a day. I don't get to go home with you or hang out in your pocket like a mini version of me and like observe all the things. So I need you to give
Yeah.
me all the information. So take me through every day from when you get up to when you go to sleep. And I'll ask questions as people are giving me that information. Like, do you share a room with someone? Do you have pets? Do they interrupt your sleep? Do you have kids that interrupt your sleep? Do you have a TV in your room? Do you have a sound machine? Do you wear an eye mask? Do you have light canceling shades? Do you live near a train? Do you live near an airport? Like, I'll ask more and more questions that people are like, why does that matter? Because it matters. Because you're always absorbing information, whether you're conscious of it or not. Our bodies, like I said before, we're antennas. We're always
Mhm.
transmitting. You don't have to necessarily know what you're transmitting, but we're always transmitting and we're always receiving.
So, how can someone begin tuning into their body's messages again?
Well, we have to go through what is saturating your environment. It's all about understanding what you've become immune to and accustomed to the point where you're not even paying attention to it anymore. And then let's see if we can shed some of those unnecessary layers.
I think hopefully with the listeners right now, like they're recognizing, like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I was just kind of putting into the background that has been thrown at me,
Oh,
been
I
trying
mean,
to tell me over and over again that something's going on and
so
you
many
just think it's
things.
normal. Yeah.
Well, I mean, modernization alone, right? We used to live in the woods in a cave. Okay. We used to follow the sun and the moon and the stars. So now we've also evolved away from the cave, away from being scared of the woods, away from being scared of eating blueberries we didn't know were going to kill us or not, or mushrooms that were going to kill us or not. Now we're all the way over here talking about AI taking over jobs. Well, like there's a long line of things that have happened that we're still here. We're still humans on this earth, surviving in the environment that's ever changing. So of course it's natural to understand that we're not scared of fire anymore. Now we have other things to be scared of that are, incomprehensible to the earlier human. So it's only, what's the word I'm looking for? Natural, I guess, to consider what is it that we've become used to and how much of it do we really need?
So, with that being said, what everyday environmental or lifestyle exposures do you think people overlook the most? Would you say just
I would say
kind of like what we
technology
talked about?
is one of the
Yeah.
things that I think gets overlooked because we are so dependent on it. So it has to be an intentional exposure because we have to use it. We have to use it. I mean, even in stores now, you have to sometimes use your phone to check out. You have to use your phone to park in most cities. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get away without having a smartphone anymore
Yeah.
because a flip phone is not going to help you pay for your parking and you're going to get towed. So, you have to you have to have some sort of negotiation with the technology that we're reliant on. But that doesn't mean it has to be over consuming. Like, I have there's certain features in my house that are smart, right? So I need to have technology set up a certain way, but it's also sometimes humorous to me when we lose power and nothing works. so, so, like, oh, well, Wi-Fi is out, nothing's going to work now. So I think certain things you have to negotiate. What is it that's necessary? How much of it do you need to expose yourself to, and how can you cut back in a way that doesn't make your life harder? So I would say technology is one of them, and the other thing is I would say um, the overconsumption of toxins. I think is something that overlooked, and I think is, I don't want people to go into a rabbit hole here, but it's important to screen your products. Just because it's a household name, I'm not going to name any names, but it's a household name that owns it, doesn't necessarily mean it's a healthy product for you. Do your research, and not too much of it, because we don't want you in a wormhole of WebMDing stuff, because that's usually instant death. So we don't want that. But we want you to at least know what it is that you're exposing yourself to, because even if you're not digesting the products, sometimes it being on your skin or being washed in your clothes or in your dish detergent, that kind of stuff, like, just if you have the luxury of having a clean product, because that's another thing, it sometimes can be associated with luxury because of price, right, depending on where you are in the country. If you can try to do it the way that our grandparents did, do that. If you can, if you're capable of doing that, if you know how your grandparents did it back in the day, try to do it that way. Try to hang your clothes more than dry them, for example. Try to use less detergents. That kind of thing, I think, is something that we overlook because of ease and convenience and overconsumption of products. So I think that's another thing that people don't consider does create a disruption, especially in your hormones. I don't want to get into a tangent now because we've been talking for a little bit now, so we can do another show together. but,
Absolutely.
but I think you may have spoken about this or not on your show about how products can really influence how we experience our day to day.
Yeah. So, with that being said, what do you wish more people knew about maintenance wellness versus like crisis wellness?
Oh, geez. I would love it if people would just start with maintenance and not start because of a crisis, but it's usually often started because of a crisis, which I
Yeah.
totally respect and understand. But after the crisis, don't abandon what it is that made you well. You can't go back into an environment that made you sick and think that it's going to be totally fine. You're not going to get sick again if you don't maintain certain things that made you well. So I think let's be logical and maintain as much as we can. And if you don't have a crisis and you're just curious about healthy living, what could it hurt?
Yeah.
Jump into it in a degree that is comfortable for you. And like I tell my clients, take what resonates and leave the rest.
Yeah, because I feel like so much of life is learning. Like I tell my parents all the time, you can be 67, but do not give yourself a hard time for just figuring something out, because that is the constant process of life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
when you're trying to be on your wellness journey or healing or all of the above, and you're worried about the bad,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the times we get in our own way because it's just figuring it out. And if anything, you just learn something that you didn't learn before if it doesn't work,
Yep.
you know?
Well, that's the beauty of our brains. It's a muscle. So if you're not always trying to learn, then you're not exercising your muscle.
What beliefs do you see people carrying that actually block their healing?
Limiting beliefs, those are endless. I would say, I think what's interesting is the limiting beliefs actually start, they're sometimes adopted from your parents. And so you are taught about money, whether your parents sat you down and taught you about money or not. You unconsciously learned about money, and you learned about hygiene, mental hygiene, and otherwise. You've learned about nutrition all by osmosis, by being in the environment. So, by being exposed to it. So, whether or not your parents properly sat you down and taught you something or not, you just learned by being in the environment with them and mirroring them. So, sometimes the limiting beliefs are things that they were overhearing as kids that became theirs, or sometimes an experience happened in their life that made them reinforce that limiting belief that just becomes a perpetuating narrative. So I would say worthiness. I think if I had to pick one, just for the sake of time, worthiness is where people struggle
Yeah.
understanding that they're worthy of something different.
Yeah, that hits hard. That that definitely I would say is a key. So we talked about external circumstances, right? And like trying to expect something to be different if you're healed. When you go back into that ring of fire, how can someone start shifting their mindset today, even if their external circumstances haven't changed yet?
I would say that your beliefs do not define you, and then we can change your beliefs. Like I said earlier in the call, beliefs are thoughts you keep thinking. So if you had
Hmm.
the luxury of picking what you thought, why would we pick something that limits you? And you have free will and you can pick new thoughts. So you are in control of your suffering. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but it's true. Pain is inevitable in life, guys,
Yeah.
but suffering is optional.
Wow, Kristina, you're hitting your it's so powerful right now.
Gabrielle, come on.
So, what modalities or tools do you find yourself coming back to again and again with clients?
Radical acceptance is a big one. Uh, Grounding, law of attraction, and energy influence. So I would say, so I do EMDR in my sessions, EFT, DBT. Those are all really about trauma recovery and distress tolerance skills, just to summarize, instead of going into all the modalities. So it's really about increasing your distress tolerance for life, which we need. We need for something as simple as not doing well on a test and trying again, or getting lost and trying to navigate, a new city, or, not feeling like you can withstand pressure from someone else, like whether it's a deadline or an expectation, right? So stress tolerance can be on so many different levels. So a lot of my sessions are based on increasing distress tolerance skills, understanding the influence that you have in your own life, and empowering yourself to choose something different.
It's like when things are said, it just sounds like we've heard them before, but it just really is exactly what it is. Does that
Well,
make
that's it.
sense?
Yeah, and I think we try to complicate it. It's not that
Yeah.
complicated. Don't mess it up. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said was perfect. It is exactly what it looks like. And it can be that simple. And I think because we are so overstimulated, we think it has to be harder.
Yeah. It's like a math question. You're like,
Right?
that was
No.
too easy. I know I'm not right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like I said before, like the way our grandparents did it, they weren't wrong. They might have
Mm-mm.
been slower at certain things because of, technology not being there, but I want to go back to what they were doing because it was healthier and it was more mindful and it was more
Yeah.
person centered,
Yeah.
family centered. And,
Yeah.
you know, it couldn't hurt. Couldn't hurt to bring some of the old stuff back.
I know. I just want to have like a homesteading colony just
Are they
out there
nude?
somewhere and you know, I don't want it to seem like I'm a part of a nudist colony. I just know I just know that they're out there.
Yeah.
So,
I think the concepts of homesteading is awesome.
yeah.
I love that. And I love that there's a turn of culture, I guess you could say, that we're seeing more and more of this pop up, more farms, more
Yeah.
homesteading, more organic living. And I think things are cyclical, right? So historically we have seen that, rising of modernization will crash and we will go back to certain basics and then we'll modernize again, and this is just a story as old as time. So what I think for now, while we're here, if we can be picking and choosing things that are different that help us thrive, why not? Why not? And
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to, like I said earlier, sometimes people will associate healthy living, healthy eating, and healthy choices as a luxury, but it that's just the way that you're framing it. Yes, it's a luxury, so to speak, but it can also be really tangible to anybody. You just have to know what to choose different.
Yeah.
So you
It's
don't
like the
have to be.
marketing of it.
It is the marketing of it. And I do get socioeconomic status can play a role, but it doesn't have to be what rules your choices.
Yeah. And if someone wanted to explore, the integrative wellness for the first time, what is a good entry point for you?
For them to find us, or
Mhm.
so they can contact us online. I can give you all of our information.
I got it. I
all of
got
our
it.
all of our providers do hybrid for what they can. Like we can't do massage hybrid, but we do provide other types of coaching and healing practices that are available worldwide. I have clinicians that are in Canada, that are in New Orleans, that are in Florida, that are all over Massachusetts. I have people all over. So whether or not you're listening and you happen to be in the state that one of my providers is in, you can go in person that way, or you can contact them online. But the way that our website is set up is we have two sections. We have a section if you wanted to be a client, you wanted to book with anybody in our collective, there's a link for that. Or if you wanted to become part of the collective, there's a link for that. So it's two little lanes there. And then as a partner of Limitless, because I have my adjacent company as Root and Rise Clinical Specialists, you can also work with us if you wanted to. If there's anything that I said that resonated with you and you're in a state that we're licensed, yeah, contact us, because therapy isn't scary.
No, it's not. It's honestly my lifeline.
It's and I tell people it's just having a conversation, and I
Yeah.
can talk for both of us if you want.
Yeah. So if you could leave listeners with one reminder for the season we're in right now, right?
Yep.
Something they can take into their everyday life,
Yep.
because I know we've discussed
A ton.
multiple things. What would it be?
Investing in yourself will always pay you back, however that looks.
I couldn't have said it any differently.
Because it can look in very different ways, right? Investing in yourself could look like you got a new pair of shoes for you. And when I say that,
Yeah.
it's because you really needed them, and that it was time to recycle those sneakers out. So like investing in yourself could look like getting yourself a treat, and it'll always pay you back. People are like, yes, I have a reason to shop.
I mean, that's my guilty pleasure, is just treating myself, but
Well, I
I have
mean,
to like
why not?
budget other things.
Yeah,
Exactly.
why not?
Right?
I
Like,
treat myself to I don't want to say the brand name, but I get my own tea on my way to work, right? So I like to
mhm,
treat myself to that, and I'll buy a breakfast that's on the healthier side, and sometimes it's oatmeal, sometimes it's egg whites, but I just change it up, and that's my treat. And it's an expense, but I like to give that to myself instead of
yeah.
doing it at home. So I will sacrifice in other areas, like you just said. I'll budget in different ways to make it work.
And I've definitely what worked well for me is being an older soul. So I like to get the early bird breakfast. I'm just going to out myself. I like to get the early bird breakfast. I like to go to bed, and I wouldn't rather like go out to bars or go out to friends. I'd rather have them come here and then I go to bed whenever, but
I love staying in.
that saves me money from like entertainment to put
Yep.
towards myself.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And agreed. Like I don't indulge in the ways that I used to when I was in my 20s. I don't drink anymore. It hurts my body too much, but I don't shame anybody who does. And I think because of that, it allows me I don't spend a lot of money on night activities, because I don't enjoy those activities anymore. So I get the luxury of doing other things that people might think is an expense. So you
yeah.
can negotiate. It's a sliding scale, right? You just pick and choose. Like I said before, people waste a ton of money on fast food services like DoorDash or Grubhub, right? The fees that are associated with those things are expensive, when you could either make your food at home, or you can go pick it up at the place and save that 20%, and then use that 20% towards something else that you wanted to get for yourself.
Right. Well, Christina, I'm so glad you were on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
This was so awesome to get to learn more about your business and also just wellness overall for any individual across the nation. So thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much. I appreciate it.
And I have your links listed where listeners can connect with you and learn more about your work
Thank
through
you so
our
much.
caption notes. But everyone, until next month, with love and light.